just to summarize, this talk is part of
Yeah.
the Africa Focus series at the ARCO Lisbon. That it's a fair that since last year has been opening up to galleries of the continent. And my curatorial gesture is very almost a non-curatorial gesture, in the sense that what we really aim is to showcase a diversity of practice and the complexity of artists working in the continent. So here you have, mister. Yeah, tell me a little bit about your story.
Yeah, hi. Hi, my name is Ngobeni. I'm a visual South African artist based in Johannesburg. Currently moved to Mpumalanga side. I mean, it's like another world for me. But what I normally do is I'm an artist that paints the current world, the current stories, the things that are happening now. Of course, the history is also attached into shaping what we do today. That makes the artwork that I do to have references about the past. But basically, in my practice, I try to because I am like a collagist, so I work with material that are very available to anybody around you. So what I'm trying to do is to use those material so that it can convey or communicate my ideas and my feelings around my society and about my own so-called the representative of the masses, whom at some point they only need, the masses when that time of voting come closer. But after that, they forget about you. And for me, because I move around my people, I speak to my people, I talk to my people. So the taste that I have about my people is very genuine. So I've created a close love with them, and finding that it's very difficult for them to access things, to access information, all this and that. Because remember, do you hear me?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Hello?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's still there. You were freezing some. Hello? Hello?
Still here. Are you around? Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Do you hear me now? Yeah, so basically, as an artist that was like born before like the South African change of leadership period, but when I started to know things, I was like that period when the Nelson Mandela took over the power. Actually, the black person took over the power, but the power that isn't like genuine to say, and realization. Hello,
Yeah.
hello. Yeah. So after when I realized that even though we were born in that period, much of the history affected so much of us. I mean, in terms of accessibility of where we're going to be able to practice our ideas, to showcase the best of us, the black excellent, for instance, the
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Now you're breaking a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if this network is the one.
Hello? Hello? Yeah, now I'm hearing you back. I
Hello?
don't see you, but I'm hearing you back. I don't know if you can hear me back. Yeah, it's a
Or
bit difficult. I
you
don't know. Yeah. But
I do
just to just to
I do hear
contextualize a
you.
little bit before. So you were born in Johannesburg or outside of Johannesburg, and then you moved to Johannesburg quite early on, and you sort of were quite young when all of this, when the end of the apartheid kind of happened, and then the new elections and the Mandela rose into presidency, and so that political context really shapes your artistic practice.
Yeah, yeah. I think because of um my own personal history outside of the system made me to realize that I need to move in my own direction, because if I to say that is, when you are raised with without both parents, for instance, and then you leave your home at young age because you could not at some point being favored, in a family. For instance, I would love to break a bit about like such things that are happening within the community where you are raised from, that can also either destroy you or build you up. To be called names, when you're being called names, at some point you don't have to live up to those names because somebody called you a name, but you try to find a way of how to survive. And for you to survive, you take risks, and when you take risks, those risks either it's a invitation of your death, or either is an invitation of good things to your life, or better to say a confusion in anything. Then the power came on to the black person. Then it allowed, some of those that were open enough, their eyes were open enough to further showcase in their own spaces that they can do it. Because the reason why I'm saying that, there's that notion or tendency of saying, or historical saying of saying a black person cannot do anything. A black person is lazy. So for me, I learned all these things even when I was growing up. When that moment is group of like kids playing with soil and brick cars, then the flying machine, the aircraft just passed. It just passed by over the sky. Then all of us, we forget about that moment, and then we look here, and then we try to even wave, even like try to talk to the aeroplanes, those things. So it's a confusion that already is unbuilding the child. So it's destroying the child to believe that you are not good at anything, rather than wanting things that are not even closer to your heart, or something that you never get, So I had that concern when I was very young. And then when it comes to that, I realized that I needed my own, ways of dealing with my life, and ways of how to survive. And also because through that, after that, I was helped by different people that are not my blood, that are not my friends, people that I meet with like daily. Like for instance, with you, we talking. Maybe you will see something important in me, and then we start furthering the connection. then you help me, I help you, something like that. So that's how the realization of my dream came through, to say, you know what, I'm nobody without myself. So I have to infuse and compress my own tiny head to blast out different great ideas, you know, that gonna spread to the world and help other people to realize things that are lying around themselves as a value, you know. Yeah.
But how then do you, how did the art world, how did you start to draw and to shape? Because I've been looking a lot also at your work, and they're quite complex in terms of the density of information, of references, of stuff that you collect, more like a social commenter of whatever's going on, you know, in South Africa. But we can even like create parallels to the rest of Africa, because there's so many similarities, although, you know, we're all...
Yeah, I think for me, what helps me, so yeah, I think for me, what started as a killing of time, you know. So I never knew that I would be an artist today. It started as a killing of time while I was in prisoner. I think between 98 to 2006. So that period, I never saw the outside world. I was in prison. So then my realization of my skill, it was through fellow inmates that were supporting me, you know, asking me to design birthday cards for their families. So I did united people, outside people with inmates inside, through you know, the messages and the portraits of their girlfriends, of their children, of their families, you know. So and the most important thing that made me to believe in art was when in a tiny space you manage to accumulate like money through you know, people who pay like 7 rand, pay 2 rand, pay whatever, that tiny money, and then you manage to buy yourself like a sneaker shoe, you know, while you're inside. Then I realized that, oh, if I can do that here, what about when I'm in the world where it's so divided already? But I wish, I like saying this, I wish to create a Cape to Cairo road where any person can share the ideas along the road with the rest of the African continent, African people, you know, and become one people, you know, and use one currency and destroy the borderism, all this and that. My vision is like, I wish, that's my desire. Then through that, it shows that we can do better as Africans, you know. We can like become the first class world if the currently leadership of Africa would accept very fresh mind, modern people, you know, people who are thinking for today and for the future. Because already remember that the history that we were being told, you know, it's a history that already cut off our originality, you know. Right now we're speaking about the history of after slavery. What was the history of the black people before the slavery? Do you know what I mean? Why don't we have those lessons of history in place that can be taught to our kids so that we know? Then we take it from there, you know. So that's for me, that's how the manifesting of the ideas in my works came about, to want to question not the status quo of the country, but the status quo of the African continent at large. You know?
Well, I think that we're in a moment where
that was my
I think that a lot of artists are also doing that, and I think that really art, it's a vehicle for questioning the narratives and for reshaping the future. I mean, I kind of like Amilcar Cabral used to say, that culture is both determinant, a fruit of history, but also a determinant of history. So I can kind of understand what you're saying in that sense, that it really, it's about taking of your own history and create a new future. But we're also living in a funny moment now with this, with the COVID, which kind of like ended up, I think that we, especially in the cultural sector in the continent, we've always worked within the margins and with very low possibilities. But really what this situation now has, brought about, that I feel it's kind of revealed all sorts of problems that we knew were there, but they kind of, they're sort of highlighted now. And how do you see, for example, I mean, has this affected your practice? You've been outside of Joburg. How is also the situation in South Africa?
I think the this pandemic situation, it is like a wake-up call for almost global thinkers, and those who are willing to contribute further towards building their own personal structures, including the international structures that they want to build in connecting themselves, in sharing the ideas, sharing the knowledge, all this and that. Because already what it says is, when you look at it deeply, it confuses everybody. Even the leadership of Africa, they don't know whether this is real or this is a lie or what. Because already black people were dying. You got what I mean? They were dying from everything, including authority that is being ordered to, create divisions amongst races of people, So therefore, for me, the question that I bring about is, at what point, when Africans themselves, they would be accepted as leaders of the ideas, rather than their ideas are being crushed. If they are not crushed, the ideas, they're being stolen. If they are not being stolen, you being assassinated for being honest and being truthful about how you feel and how you think about your own people and, your own landscape. So the COVID-19 itself, it has so much to do with, people that wants to bring order towards people that are very fragile, I mean, black people, we welcome anybody. We love anybody. We don't want a world where there's people who hide behind the mask. Like right now, we're speaking about the mask. And the mask has so much to do with secrets, historically. Do you know what I mean? Then it is brought now as a new culture. I think it's the beginning of a new culture. There are people who will never throw that away. Hence I always question the birth of the culture in different societies. We ever have new cultures, like the new cultures get born almost every second of the mind of the person in the way they are thinking about things, So it for me as a person, I've been traveling. I don't want to lie. I mean, I never been in one space since the beginning of the COVID-19. The reason being why I did so, it is because there is no way that we come up with a constitution that is quickly drafted, and it's drafted by not our own black people. It's drafted by the people that wants the system to keep on oppressing, our own. Do you know what I mean? It's a similar, what I'm questioning is a similar to why Africans never at some point had a meeting on deciding how to call their own continent, how to make things run for their own continent without seeking approval. Do you get what I mean? When you seek approval, automatically what you're doing, you're selling that idea to the other, and the other take advantage of you because you went and bore your head to them. So then that's why you find out the greatest invention of Africa, from Africa, is stolen. It's taken away from us. Somebody buy them out. They don't want us to, to become us. Do you know what I mean? To practice who is us. We have greatest thinkers in this, like the modern greatest thinkers that are not given an opportunity to showcase. Where are the young voices right now? That you look at the social media, for instance. Social media, it is meant at some point to make us to not recognize the presence of ourselves, because there is so much about the history that is not favoring us.
No, I agree.
I don't know if maybe
at some point in terms
makes sense.
We need to be aware. I mean, obviously the past shape us, and we need to be aware to be able to deconstruct all of those narratives that were prescribed, and also to break from stereotypes. We need to be aware of our history, and then really, but I also think that it's up to us to really come up with whatever a brighter future. And I think that that's also down to, as you said, the leaderships probably not being interested or not being focused on these issues. But I'm an optimist. I do also believe in the power of civil society. I believe in the power of arts to discuss these issues. I was looking earlier at this one of your works that is at ARCO, that is the vehicle of failed state. And now hearing you, it kind of makes more sense to think of, how we can move from these failed states. But I also think that we have here an opportunity at our hands, and I think that as tiring as within the continent, we're starting to have slowly. In some countries already, some steps forward. So there is hope. I hope so.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. Why I'm saying that's true. The only problem that we have is why we the young minds at some point are not at some point given an opportunity, to showcase what they can do. Because already why I'm saying this, across Africa, the Chinese people, I'm being honest, I don't want to lie. The Chinese people, they are the people that are given like very expensive projects to run, to build stadium, to do road constructions. Then these people, they don't even come with the idea of employing the local people. They come with the labor, the Chinese system to say those who did petty crimes, they being sent away to work for free. Do you know what I mean? Already it destroys, because when we start to wake up, the lands that are being bought by these people, they have resources, and those resources they are being stolen because the person bought a big land. So thinking about what I'm saying is very disturbing when we see the leadership failing the people on the ground, like the modernized young thinkers, because the young thinkers at some point they will tend to riot, tend to destroy, because they want their voices to be heard, and most of the young voices, for them, does not make sense, because they are the old people. They are thinking about we're gonna be ancestors soon. Being an ancestor at some point, in Africa is a big deal. They only favor their own. Do you know what I mean? Because why I'm saying that in South Africa, we have a system that was built against the rest of the people, the gray area system, where the people are squashed in shacks, which in my artistic language, I call it the dump site. You You know what? Where the dump site is, where everybody picks anything and feel like it's gonna fill the stomach. You know, that's how the township structure has been designed. You know, through that already, I'm talking about places that I know. What about the rest of Africa? The rest of Africa has a land that is not in the black people's hands. Whereas if that land can be at some point, or the idea of African unity, whatever a name that will come about or come with, will serve, you know, and patch and mend wherever it is broken, you know, in African thinking, you know, then that thing will be, that idea will benefit most of us, you know, who have a desire to build. For instance, why I'm saying that, I acquired a few pieces of land, and the projects that I'm building there, they are benefiting that society, their community there, and they are seeing as a useful project because, you know, but if we don't have those land, we squashed. We you know, you cannot even make love to your whoever because the neighbor will like, listening, or will pimp by the wall of the nail. You know, think about those situations. It's a very disappointing situation that, as a leadership of Africa, we must stand. They must stand on that and fight for us from the Western people who wants to loot from us, because the cause of that is you know, the capitalist system, where they occupy the land that's supposed to belong to the people, you know, and the black person is the last option to be recognized or to be given a project that can help himself and other the rest of the people. So think about that thing. Automatically, it suggests that we are not favored, you know.
Yeah,
we're not favored.
Let's
be honest.
I want to touch a little bit on this project that you're doing, but before that, there is a question that came out here that I think that it's an interesting question. It's saying, when you think of Africa, do you include the Middle East in your thoughts? And it's something that to me is also strikes me, because very often we're also used to speak of the Southern West, or the Southern Sub-Saharan, and I mean, I kind of you know, probably get up to Egypt, but to beyond that, there is really an ambiguity as to, you know, how we can connect to that. So I don't know what your thought about it, you know.
I think it's a matter of, you know, when a child is not exposed, you know, to understand the boundaries of Africa itself, the rest of Africa, then that child won't be able to understand why a black person is black and then a white person is white. Do you get what I mean? Therefore, I would kind of say, save that question for, you know, I don't want to lie, you know, about it. You know, I want to like further do my personal research and find out the originality of that idea, you know, the question itself, you know. Therefore, from that, then I can provide a proper answer, because I live this moment and I speak this moment, and I want this moment to, you know, to further foresee the history of my own and the people that are listening to this, you know. So the question of Middle East, you know, I need to find time for that. I don't want to like put myself in there, you know. But my wish is to see Africa as one people, Africa from Cape to Cairo, with whatever currents that we will decide to adopt, because it's going to benefit the rest of the people. It won't just benefit individuals.
No, for sure. And I think that that's something that,
that's
you know, these dialogues are also good. Something that I'm noticing now that, you know, people are forced to be talking from a distance. But at the same time, you know, when you see institutions like you see the Zeids talking to the Macau, you know, we see all the cultural producers in the continent kind of you know, crisscrossing, exchanging ideas, and try to create platforms that really can make us work together. I think that that's something positive that's coming out of this moment, at least. And if we can take those things further, I think that there is probably, we can shape, you know, whatever's happening next. I try not to think too much of what's coming next, but to kind of try already to understand what's going on now. It's a difficult task. But yeah, I wanted to also, I wanted to also get into, I mean, you've won the, you know, Standard Bank Award this year, but so I guess that's, you know, congratulations. That's something, I think that it's a recognition of the relevance of a discourse and of you know, a body of work that doesn't end now. But I also know that you established like mentorship for younger artists, and I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, how that sort of mentoring role and how really you see yourself. I know that there is also an award and creating opportunities for a younger generation of artists that is coming out. So how do you see that?
No, thank you for,
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Okay. No, firstly, thank you for the Standard Bank for recognition, for you know, seeing the messages getting across, you know, through the works that I do. Yes, the idea behind the BNEP is it's more of like I'm playing a role of the outreach program that in search of the people who can replace, you know, others when others run out of energy, because this is how the system created this thing to say at some point we cannot do it anyway in anyhow without the system, but we can demolish and abolish the system by being an example of such projects. Because the project that I created it. I think this is a fourth year, and I don't have a money like money as saying like billionaires and them, but whatever little money that I get, I try by all means to put it towards building a young, fresh mind thinkers who can contribute with great creative ideas towards the art landscapes, you know, because the art landscapes needs cultivation. So that cultivation is people like me who are willingly to further support them and shape them and mentor them and give them the opportunity to be able to showcase their ideas in big platforms, you know, because if we don't do that, who we are, you know. If you look at South African masters, like my very first person that I read about when I was in prison, Gerard Scotto in exile. I read about the guy and I got inspired, and then I realized that shit, you know what? I want one of the days to be in books, you know, one of the days to be speaking the voice that is very touchfully towards supporting the creative minds. Therefore, through that, I wanted to introduce this as a project that is an ongoing project, that it's mostly it's more of like self-funded projects until this year. This year we raised funds through exhibitions and you know, like auctions. I auctioned one of my work like last year towards this year's project. So it's like something that I'm building through wanting to bring the idea of sharing. You know, sharing comes in different ways. It does not come where you hold somebody's hand and say, draw this fruit or draw this whatever. You allow them to swim in your dreams through what you say, through giving them the opportunity to be free, you know. If you get what I'm saying.
I think that
what I'm saying is
this here in London, and I think that it's common across the continent. It's almost like you know, the younger generation that are coming that sometimes don't have the visibility or the platforms, and it's kind of for them to grow and to really be there. So it's yeah, I think that it's important.
No, it's true. It's true. It's important for the young ones to get like a playground where they can, you know, mess up the canvas without being limited by material, by space. You know, it's important because it's a space where they can bring out that contribution towards to build and further contribute to the art landscapes, you know. So that's my take towards this project, because it's a project that I wanted to grow, and at some point I just wanted to connect the whole African artists to mingle, to meet each other, to, you know, like for instance, right now the same plane that I have with the land that I bought, I want to create a residence place where people will come and showcase and play with every tool that they're gonna have from across the world, from across whoever that feels, because I believe that humans, they have so much to offer, but they are being limited because of the system never favored great thinkers. You know, it only favors the capital system, you know, because capital system is designed to sanction and cut off others.
Yeah, but I also believe that today we have, even when you don't have a lot of money, you have the means to kind of break from these things. I also believe that somehow the art landscapes are going to be reshaped, or are in the process of being reshaped, because obviously in the continent for sure. I think that we're almost finished. I'm just checking if there are any questions. I don't think that there are like any more questions. But it's been an interesting conversation. I think that we should do that more often. Is there anything else you would like to kind of add? What are you doing right now? Are you sort of like reacting, like one of those artists that is reacting to this moment and producing a lot, or you're more sort of on the reflective side?
I did few works during the stiffness of the lockdown, because right now we're in level 3, during the level 5. But mostly because I have other businesses that I'm doing outside art. You know, I'm a Johnny Walker. I'm on the road almost now and then, but I work in the studio and I'm capturing the moment through like I've done 3 works that are very, very speaking to the current situation. And one of the work will be featured into my Standard Bank show, because all things they got postponed, all this and that. But the show now is up at the gallery. Tomorrow we're doing like a video talk between me and Tebe Ikalafeng, and Dr. Semi. She's gonna be around to oversee, you know, everything. But otherwise, I mean, the show is titled Chaotic Pleasure, you know, which is speaking to the beauty and the ugly of the present or current life that we're living right now, you know. So it's a reflection of the idea of wanting to be visible and be in the shadow space, you know, so that, you know, because when you're in shadow space, they only hear your voice, but when you are in the like visible or in the light space, they also capture your how you feel in facial you know, expression, you know, kind of vision. Yeah, but otherwise it's yeah, trying to exploit my own self, you know, without being
No,
exploited.
I'm looking forward to see them whenever it's possible. Thank you so much, Blessing.
Yeah,
This was a wonderful talk,
yeah,
despite the technical issues. I think that we managed.
yeah,
So yeah, thanks a lot for taking the time, for being
yeah, yeah,
here
yeah.
with us, for making the effort.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's hope this is a
Yeah.
beginning of a new era, a beginning of a new way of dealing with our own issues, a beginning of building a unit amongst ourselves. And the issue of censorship must at some point being looked as something that does not exist, because each and every voice is important, and we need more of young voices to come on board and start voicing themselves. We're tired of the old videos that are
For
reposted
sure.
and reposted. So we need our current people to participate. Otherwise, if we don't participate together, we won't be able to mend our own African from being ripped off, from being, you know, it was chopped in pieces, you know. But we need to patch that in our own time, you know,
Thanks.
and time, you know,
Thanks.
and time, you know,
Thanks.
and time, you know.
Thanks.